Raising Unicorns!
Harmon Brothers!
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Raising Unicorns. I have one of my favorites from the whole company. Sorry, Ryan. Zach Atherton!
Hey, everybody.
So today we're doing another book review of one of, I would say, is one of our core books that we have people read here at Harmon Brothers. It is Made to Stick by Dan and Chip Heath.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a book throwdown!
This is, I think, in my list of books of what made me kind of influenced my marketing and also made me understand kind of our heritage of some of the original campaigns that Daniel worked on. I can totally understand why they made what they made based on a lot of principles that are found within this book, for sure. Part of the premise of the book is making something, a message that is sticky, right? That sticks with people long. Because, we always talk about at Harmon, but I have kind of our four tenets of what makes a really good ad, which is 1, it's engaging. 2, it sells. 3, it makes people want to be part of the brand tribe or part of that group. And then 4, is it sticky is one of them. And I think that engaging is often conflated with sticky. Does it make you want to continue watching it? Sure. All these ads where they destroy a competitor product as the opening ad, on a TikTok ad, yeah, that's engaging. But do I remember it any differently from something else that was another destruction hook? No.
Yeah, I call it the shooting a baby out of a cannon.
Yeah,
It's that's interesting. I will watch this but will this impact me or stick with me in any way? It doesn't have to do with anything.
It feels like it's like a shaking a hand at the kid to make him look at the camera. But it's very, it's not memorable. And the whole book is how do you tell stories and how do you create messaging that sticks with people in a way that the message of what you're trying to convey and what the real core of it sticks with them in a way that lasts beyond the immediate viewing or the immediate reading of something.
Yeah, a good message will actually change you a little bit. It's not always life-changing, it's not always monumental, but it will change the way you think a little bit, and that's what got across to me. Everyone wants to copy other people's messages and use them, and I found that it's really good directionally to go and discover something new for yourself, because even the examples that they give in the book, if people were to try to copy them now, it would no longer stick. Got Milk was a hugely successful campaign, for better or for worse. And then there are so many copycats. Remember that for a long time? It was
there was the Pistachios did it.
Got Pistachios, got whatever. And it didn't stick because no one thought about that message so clearly. You have that thing. But as people are discovering their stories, because I'll do a lot of discovery calls and where I'm trying to help clients discover their aha moments or their story. I'm if your company needs to have a story that actually changed someone in some way, and you have to figure out a way to communicate that story in just a sniper shot to the heart. And if you can't, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? Then you just might not have something that's really sticky.
They have a couple of really potent examples in this book. I'm trying to remember the type of oil that was really popular for they were using it on popcorn. Do you remember the type of oil?
It was a high trans fat oil.
It was horrible for you.
It was like smoking a pack of cigarettes for 1 bucket of popcorn.
Yeah.
You're killing our children.
And the thing that actually made it stick in a way where people were oh, this is going to change behavior. I'm trying to, it wasn't canola oil. It was a certain type of oil.
Was it a coconut?
It was coconut oil. Yeah. And it was basically they were using it to flavor popcorn. And they basically said this, instead of a bucket of popcorn on it was on a big billboard, equals this. And it was this entire huge fattening meal that had all these really things that are usually as fried chicken and all this other stuff that was associated with this is super fatty and unhealthy. Yeah. This equals this. When you eat this, it's the same as equally this, because it was the butter or the oil was so unhealthy for you.
Right.
And it had all these trans fats in it that were terrible for you in a large quantity.
Yeah.
And they were pouring tablespoons of this butter or this oil on with the butter, and it was that finally showing this equals this, dum-dum, don't eat this. And then instantly there was this massive shift away from it to be going, I think they went over to canola oil, which was much healthier for people in consumption of that quantity.
Yeah, I think we've talked about on the show before, but it's the meme effect. Again, you get a powerful message across in a meme.
Yeah.
And if not, shave it down. If you need to be well, you need to understand A to understand B, and then you'll get C, most of the time that's too much.
Yeah.
To really have a sticky message that gets, especially if we're talking about top of funnel, people with attention spans. Try to turn your core message into a single meme and see if people can understand what you're trying to change about them.
And I think it's one of those things where I think about, some of our campaigns that have done really, really sticky. I think about the Purple Mattress campaign. It's the meme is eggs, smash, broken, eggs not broken, cradled, like soft.
Get that in 3 seconds.
It's like that's all right in the hook. It's right up front, right? Or like the Fiberfix car, roll cage, crumpled, duct tape.
Yeah.
This not stay strong. It's like
Caveman right.
Caveman
right ad.
stick right ad. Good.
Sell much money pocket. Nice wife.
Profit.
What I also loved, this was when I reread it, this was something that really stuck with me this time, was like the idea of simulation, of stop getting people to visualize necessarily the benefit, but like visualizing the use or the struggle of it is actually helpful. And I think that's where like a lot of ads really fall flat. It's like, you tired? Wanna be this? Hooray! And it's just like, okay, this is just noise.
Yeah.
But instead of actually showing the process where they themselves think of the idea of like, oh, if I do this, I will be like, Perk Energy was one of our clients where it's just like, you're able to show like, I could easily do that before I send my kids off to the bus to give me the energy that I need in the day, helping them visualize that more rather than just like, so this is an improv and an acting and a storytelling principle, show, not tell. And so many people just want to tell this good, my product good, rather than
back to caveman marketing.
Back to caveman. We should rebrand. Forget those Harmon Brothers.
Caveman marketing. Product good. Buy. You do now. Make money. Haha.
Click. Money. Cha-ching. But I love that of just being like, whenever I'm like trying to get into the customer's head, when you just say this is good, you're immediately asking for pushback. Like there's something in our brain be like, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
But if you can incept them where they're like, whoa, maybe I'm convincing myself that actually is good for me.
Yeah. I want to do that because that's like that I'm seeing this like a benefit or effect firsthand in a simple way that's clearly coming to me. I want to do that. One of the things that I think was, this is a kind of a summary of like the acronym they have inside the book for how to determine whether your idea is like really sticky. And the acronym for it is SUCCES with one less S.
SUCCES.
No, but on the end. Success. Success. I don't know how to do it short. But it is simple, unexpected, concrete, credible, emotional, and stories.
Yeah.
And I think that like we've used combinations of different amounts of those, but like oftentimes like I think about chapbooks, right? Like with like the stories one, like we told a story about a mom who was incredibly busy, showed how busy she was in a relatable way that women who are the primary consumer of this product could say, and I'm relating with this woman. And it was encapsulated in this story of this busy mom running around doing 1,000 different things. And that's why she uses chapbooks, and it makes logical sense to them in the story of this mom's life. I'm too busy. I don't have time to make photo books, so that's why I let chapbooks do it for me. And like that's a powerful story.
One thing the book talks about, Joy, that was really interesting is stories bypass our natural defenses, where it's just like, if I catch you in the middle of a story, you don't have to ask me to follow along, I will. But if you sort of set up the hype beforehand, I'm like, I'm about to tell you something really interesting that's going to make you want to do something. Immediately they're going to be like, right.
No, I'm not.
I'm immediately resistant to that. But if I just dive straight into a story, and this is something that I've realized for content creation. So when I'm not working on the TV show, when I'm not working at Harmon Brothers, I'm also a content creator doing some improv. And the clips that I've produced that have been the most viral by far have been the ones that are talking about this, but also where people want to insert themselves into the narrative and feel like they have something to say. So Shay, who's one of our other lead writers here, she to prompt an improv that we did, she told a story about how she had never once in her life seen her dad shirtless. And she's like, it just wasn't a part of thing in her family, like not at the beach, not at the pool. He just always kept his shirt on. And it was like a funny clip, and we laughed about it. Got 10 million views, thousands of comments, because everyone wanted to comment either A, that's weird, I never saw my dad, or of course, why didn't you go to the pool, or I've also never seen my dad shirtless.
Like, me too.
Yeah. And so when I think those are like the most viral stories, when we see ourselves in them and we want to contribute.
If it makes you want to be part of the brand tribe because they've spoken to you in a way that like is like, oh my gosh, they are getting at like a core part of me that marketing usually doesn't. Yeah. That's like the sweet spot, because it's really hard to get there and really hard to resonate with people in that way. And that's why I like always am trying to strive for that, which is really hard to get to. Like it takes a ton of work.
And it takes a lot of mental power, because I think people inherently know their own stories and they feel it, but that they don't necessarily know how to crystallize that or communicate that. So we've done a lot of brand voice guides to try to help people to understand this, where we're basically like, sell me your product. Why does your product matter? And some people really nail it, but most of the time they're like, well, they just
It's
talk
a good
about
product.
the benefits.
It's
really
better than
good,
this
and
product
people
that's
like
competing.
it. And then I always do like, why do I care test? Why do I care? And you got to push and push and push and push and push until you get there. And so I do some creative consulting through Harmon Brothers, and I went to Wisconsin. I'm going again this year. And something that was so fascinating is working with commodity businesses, and every single one of them, when we're going through this, we called it an uncovery session, where we're trying to uncover their aha moment. There's like, I sell blinds. What could possibly be interesting about me? But every single time we went to it, there was something really cool about their story. I'm like, why aren't you talking about that? Like, we went to a car dealership. It's like every other car dealership. And after like 2 hours of working, they're like, oh, and also we say yes to every request that the customer does. We're like, what? Any request? Like, yeah, if they want to like trade in their scooter for a car, like we'll work with them on that. I'm like, what? This took 2 hours to get, and so they were able to craft.
Nobody
this
says
whole...
that. You do like nobody says that.
Right,
So
like,
you should lean into that. And they're like, well, it's just a scooter, guy.
It's just boring. And so everybody has this sort of like core truth that they just either like they don't know it, and so instead what they do is they uncover it with stuff they've seen that have worked before, or things that are talking around the core, where it's just like, well, we're really beneficial because we were able to increase the blah 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 blah. It doesn't mean anything. And I love that about Made to Stick, where it's just like, get to the thing that's going to pierce someone's heart and be like, that's important.
Yeah,
that changed
that's what
bit.
I want.
Yeah, again, it's like breaking through the noise is so important. Of like, when you're thinking through your ad campaign, you're thinking through your story, like, and this is what I'm doing with my clients now. I'm trying to get them to picture, like, are you going to be known as like the copycat of so-and-so? Or is this something when people see it, they're like, oh, the blankety blank company, you did that ad, as opposed to Harmon Brothers really set the trail for this type of ad. And yet what's so interesting, even though there's a lot of copycats out there, people still think it's the Harmon Brothers that made that. I can't tell you. I'm just like, did you do this one? I'm like, oh no, this other agency did that. They're like, I thought it was you, because Harmon Brothers broke the schema of what an ad should be. And now it's our challenge to like do it again and like try to figure out new ways in this new world. But take what people expect about you. And I think we've talked about Scrub Daddy before, but they're doing such a good job.
So good.
Of breaking it, of just being
it's like annoying how good they are.
It's of being so irreverent and just being like, you don't talk about this. This is an ad. You don't say these words.
This is a company's official account?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. That you can't do that.
And it does such a good line, because it's like, we're selling sponges with smiley faces on them. Why would we take ourselves so seriously?
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is a part of Made to Stick.
Well, and I think too, sorry, I just cut you off, Zach, but I think that's like, it's such a good move for this space. Like, think about who else is in the space. It's like Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, like Church. Like, it's like the most conservative old school brands in the world who would never take a swing like that. So in that space, it's even the most like, it's so counterintuitive to what the conventional knowledge of that space is. It's usually like, it's like Dove, like, oh, Pampers. It's like, feel better. Like, it's just a warm little soft hug that's totally innocuous but doesn't do anything. And they're like, get some good sponges, idiot. Here you go. Get creamed. And you're like, whoa, jeez.
Oh my gosh. And what's so cool is they're a great product.
Oh, it's a great product. It's amazing.
They don't,
super cool.
They don't have to talk about it that much. The people who talk about them are like, hey, this is hilarious, but actually it's a really dope sponge.
Half the comments are that. Like, it's like, I actually seriously use these things. They're awesome. They're like bringing the brand back on topic sometimes,
Absolutely. And a little bit, this isn't like a huge made to stick. I guess the unexpected thing could be, I can't tell you how many times I've like wanted to scream at clients of saying, stop being so safe. Everyone thinks for their own baby, their own brand, they're a Pepsi, or they think they're an Apple. If Apple were to come out and were to do like a Scrub Daddy type thing, there might be some blowback. There might be some unintended consequences. For most of the brands that we work with and most of the people who aren't on this like national scale, if you take a swing and you miss,
nobody cares.
You'll be seen by 2,000 people, and they won't even register that it's you. And they'll be like, okay, whatever. But if you can make a big swing and tickle people the right way, you're going to be seen by millions and millions of people, especially in the world of TikTok and algorithm or whatever. And so as people are thinking about their messages, I would encourage them, take huge, big swings, because the risk is so small. Unless you're doing something like
Unless you're
horrible.
at Peloton. If you're at Peloton's level, maybe think twice about giving a misogynistic gift to your wife as an ad. I mean, like, just maybe. But if you're not at Peloton's level, you can afford to take it. Don't do a misogynist swing.
Yeah.
Have some common sense.
Right.
But like, take swings at doing something that's a little audacious, because like, you'll probably miss dozens of times before you hit it. And
right. And the misses won't matter.
It won't
in the
matter.
long run.
If you could say you took one thing away from this book, like just down to just one element, what would it be the most like valuable thing you took away from this book?
It was one of the first stories where it talks about we remember urban myths more than anything.
Like the razor blades and the candy?
It's stuck forever. My mom still believes it. It's
Still.
completely false, but she believes it. And that is powerful. And so we need to use that power for good. As you're crafting your stories, everybody has a story that's worth to be told. Everybody does, and people just don't know it yet. And so you got to practice. I know it sounds cheesy and it sounds cliche, but you have to understand your own story so well that you can touch somebody. And it doesn't always have to be emotional. It has to be sad, but you can touch people a little bit with a single line. Like think about the people who have it talks about JFK. He's like, we're going to put a man on the moon. Mm-hmm. And that story touched people for over a decade. The classic story of the janitor, what are you doing? Do you mop up floors? He's like, no, I'm putting a man on the moon, is so powerful. So whether you sell a supplement or a service or a commodity or whatever, you need to identify what is that story what's your why. And once you identify that, the rest of the stuff will come. The benefits will come. The structure will come. Understand that and you'll be able to pierce people's heart.
So yeah, I think that anyone who is in the marketing world who hasn't read Made to Stick, I think Dan and Chip Heath did a fantastic job encapsulating.
Great read.
Yes.
It's super easy to listen to on Audible. I'd highly recommend it.
And it will, like Zach said at the beginning, stick with you and influence your marketing for years to come.
Just skip the last chapter that talks about the Jared Subway story. No longer relevant.
It's not a big
all.
thing. That's a story that we could all forget.
Thank you for watching Raising Unicorns!
Subscribe now.